Hello and welcome to the Finding Happily webinar. And this webinar is why you keep dating emotionally unavailable people. And we're going to get into this webinar now. Thank you all for joining me. What we'll be discussing today is I'm going to share a little bit about who I am. And I'll also give you the top 3 reasons why you keep dating emotionally unavailable individuals or people over and over again. A couple of case studies, I'll also be sharing those with you, and 3 things you can start doing today to get you out of this vicious cycle. So I'm Collette G, dating and relationship specialist and author. I offer coaching, workshops, trainings, online courses. I'm an author of 3 workbooks, and my most recent book, Finding Happily, No Rules, No Frogs, and No Pretending. It's available on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, digital and print. You can also find my books at select bookstores. So how I got into doing what it is that I do is many years ago, I found myself in and out of unhealthy dating and relationships cycles. And I found myself asking, the universe, God, and my friends and family why I couldn't seem to meet and marry my perfect partner and live happily ever after. And the one place I hadn't thought to look was within me. And that's when shift happened in my life. And I know this sounds a little woo woo and things like that, but that's when shift really happened in my life, where I started to look for the answers within me. And I made a lot of changes in my life so that I could first cultivate and form a healthy, loving, meaningful relationship with myself, and then make myself available to share all the love that I had to offer with others and share my life in a way where I wasn't looking for a relationship or love to fill a void, but to share the love that I had to give, and not to give more than I was capable of giving, because that would be like depleting myself of the love that I need to give myself first and foremost. But mostly because we are not lone selves. We come here to, share our lives with other people, whether we're sharing our gifts or our talents or our love, or through family, friends, community, or support with other people. And so that's a little bit about me. And so let's get into more about, why, although I think life can be challenging, I don't believe that dating and relationships have to be. And I'm not just saying this from a professional standpoint, but mostly also from a personal standpoint, because I went through many different dating and relationship challenges in my life. I was in domestic violence relationships and in and out of relationships with individuals with substance abuse problems, individuals who were cheaters, and the list goes on. And I realized that in order to cultivate a loving, meaningful relationship, it begins and ends with self. And so life is challenging. We have lots of challenges in the life that we live while we're here on this planet, but the relationships that we have with ourselves and others does not have to be as challenging. So I want to talk a little bit about the D&R cycle, which is the dating and relationship cycle. And what usually happens, if you look here at this chart, you'll see that what happens is we usually meet someone new. And in this phase, we feel really good, we're happy, we're optimistic, about what could be. We start talking to this person, everything is going great, we feel good, we believe they feel good, we're not mind readers, but they appear to feel good and everything is still going great. We really start to like this person after this point, and sometimes we might start to project our hopes, our dreams, our aspirations, our desires onto this other person. And it's not uncommon to do this, although sometimes in this phase it can happen rather abrupt without us really getting to know who the person is. Because this phase right here where we start liking the individual in this DNR cycle, if it's not a long, healthy phase where you really do the work getting to know this person and allowing them to get to know you, when this cycle right here, this part of the cycle is short, where we start liking them too quickly or before we really get to know them, it leads us to the next stage, which is finding out that they're no good. They're no good for us. We're no good for them. Things are not working out. And then that leads to us not talking to them, or they stop talking to us, and all the connections are lost. We feel bad. We feel lonely again, and the vicious cycle begins all over again, because most of the time we never really worked out the underlying issues that causes us to keep dating the same person over and over again. So this DNR cycle goes over and over again until we learn what it is that we need to do to spend a little more time in the feeling lonely stage, and also spend a little bit of more time in the liking them and getting to know them phase. So I want to just say right here that don't worry that, because you're not crazy right now. And I know it might feel like, you're taking the same pill expecting a different result, and that makes you feel like you're crazy, and you're living in this state of bliss where you've taken the blue pill and you really need to be taking the red pill where you're living in the real world and the reality. And that usually will reveal to you some unpleasant truths, truths that normally we don't always want to know, truths about ourselves, truths about our choices, truths about the people that we're choosing, truths about some past experiences that might be causing us to date the same person over and over again, expecting a different result. And I don't believe that you're crazy. I don't believe that, something's wrong with you. I do believe that you're going to be okay. And you're here today because you want to answer the question that maybe's been going on in your mind for some time, which is, why is it that I keep dating the same kind of person over and over again? And what is it that you can do? And I know you've probably at this point tried everything, and I'm just letting you know that no matter how nice you are, what you do, you're not going to get out of this vicious cycle that you're in until you start making some changes. So, here are the top three reasons, and I'm going to go a little bit more into these, but let me just, these are the subjects that we'll be discussing going further in. First, it's your story. Second, it's your perception about yourself and about others and the world around you. And third, it's your BS, your belief system. These are the top three reasons why you keep dating the same person over and over again. So everyone has a story, and whatever it is your story is causing you to be in this dating relationship vicious cycle with the same person over and over again. My story used to be, well, I'm unworthy and undeserving. So I would meet men that would validate that I was unworthy and undeserving, and they would abuse me, lie to me, cheat on me, and mistreat me because I didn't believe within myself that I was worthy and deserving. Now, this story that I had going on, this negative loop and story that I was playing inside of my head, wasn't a conscious thing, but when I started to do that inner work, I realized that that was the story that I was playing. Therefore, I needed to hire, the actors and the director and the producer, which all was me, in order to create the story and bring it through to fruition. So once upon a time, you had a story. And if you tell me your story, I will tell you what your problem is. Is your story serving you? If it is, keep using it. But if it's not, then ditch it. So now we're going to go over a couple of case studies. Where are you meeting people? Dating apps, nightclubs, bars, they are full of emotionally unavailable people. And this is by default. And dating apps are tools, and dating sites are tools, and we should use them as such. And nightclubs and bars are great places to go and hang out with your friends and have a good time. And yes, you can meet people in these places. But statistically speaking, the chances of meeting an emotionally unavailable person is greater in these environments. Now, most people, so this goes back to your story, would rather be right than be happy. Is that true or false? And I would say that it's true for most people because we would rather be right, which means that we would rather be right that our story is true. The story that there are no good men out there, the story that there are no good women out there, the story of, dating apps really suck, and or the story that, oh, people online only want people that are beautiful or young or have money, the story about I'm not educated enough, the story about well, I have too many kids or nobody's going to want someone who's divorced. Whatever it is your story is, you rather be right about your story than to be happy. And that is why most of the time people find themselves holding on to the story because the story is serving them because they're afraid to let the story go. So most of us would rather be right than to be happy. Another thing that happens in this story phase is the avoidant versus the anxious. The avoidant type of personality is somebody that grew up with these personality traits. Now, not going to get into the four different personality traits that happen during your childhood years, but these two types of personality traits, the avoidant and the anxious personalities, definitely have something to do with why you might be dating the same person over and over again. If you have a more avoidant personality, then you believe that others are too needy and want too much intimacy from you. And if you're an anxious personality, then you believe no one can give you what it is you need in a relationship. These are your this validates your story and you're stuck in that story. Therefore, you will live under this story and date the same types of persons over and over again in order to validate that story and make that story true. Now we're going to get into the perception, the perceiver, and the perceived. It's estimated that visual perception is 80% memory and 20% input through the eyes. So, in other words, sensory information is not transmitted to the brain, it comes from your perception of yourself and the world around you. So, basically, what's happening is however it is that you perceive yourself and the world around you is going to dictate the experiences that you have and the things that you remember and how you perceive the experiences that you've had. So if you wound up in an abusive relationship and your perception is that you're unworthy and you're undeserving and all men are abusive, then you're going to project that onto the perceived so that you can validate that experience as your truth. Another thing is that some people date the same person over and over again because they're addicted. Many of us will go after emotionally unavailable people because the thrill of the chase. And we try to figure someone out, wondering how they might react to us or if we can break through. And this whole anticipation of the reward creates these dopamine effects that makes it very exciting for us to go through this experience. So I want you to also just think now we're talking here about belief systems. So stop the BS from ruining your life. Are your belief systems ruining your relationships? If thoughts become things, is your mind trying to solve the problems that you created based on your belief system? So if it's not bringing you pleasure, then it's bringing you pain. Pain is stored in your body, and I'm reading this book right now called The Body Keeps the Score, and I'll be sure to leave a link in the description section if you're interested in joining our monthly book club where we'll be discussing this book at the beginning of the new year. So when we experience pain, it causes us to reject anything that reminds us of that pain, even if what we're rejecting happens to be good for us, such as love. If we had painful, loving experiences or love that was abusive or love that hurt, then we will reject love because love reminds us of the pain that we endured from our past experiences. But this goes back to the belief systems. Is your BS real or is it false? Is it creating the story that you have about your life? Is it creating the perception that you have about yourself in reality? But we must want to experience pleasure in our lives more than we experience pain. And we can and we will if we learn to release and let go. There is a deep connection between the mind, the body, and the spirit. And that's why I brought up how the body does keep the score, because inside of our body, we hold on to all of this pain that we've experienced. Because if you really think about it, we only can relive the past experiences, the trauma, and all those things that we hold in our memories by igniting them or reliving them rather over and over and over again through the mind because they've already passed and they no longer exist. And unless you're currently in an abusive relationship, everything that has happened to you is already in the past. But the body doesn't know that. So whenever the mind brings this up, the body relives it and the spirit becomes weakened by this. And so you know, my recommendation to you is to do a lot of deep spiritual work so that you can heal the body and the mind. So these are three things that you can start doing today. These should be some goals. So you can get out a pen and paper, or you can watch this video over and over again, which I'll be sharing on YouTube after we've finished this webinar. It'll go up in a week or so. And but you can also write these things down because I think writing helps us to create an ideomotor response, which helps us to remember. So these are three things that you can start doing today. Number one, you can keep a journal and record each time that you distort your reality to fit your perception so that you can really work on that cognitive distortion that's happening in your life. So, I'm going to share another tool with you about cognitive distortion. So, let's go over the cognitive distortion and what it actually is and how we distort our experiences. And below is a list of the top 10 cognitive distortions. It's the all or nothing thinking, it's the overgeneralization, it's the minimizing or magnifying, the shoulds, the labeling, the jumping to conclusions, discounting the positives, blame and personalization, or emotional reasoning. So these are the top 10. And of course, there are more. When you're talking about the all or nothing thinking, then you're seeing things as black and white, right or wrong, with nothing in between. So essentially, if I'm not perfect, then I'm a failure, or we overgeneralize. This happens when we use words like this always happens, or, I'll never get that promotion. When we mind read, this is a big one in relationships, number 6, where we talk about making negative assumptions about how people see us without evidence or factual support. So she thinks or he thinks about this, or I'm exaggerating again, or fortune telling in number 2 of number 6. We make negative predictions about the future without evidence or factual support. I won't be able to sell my house, or I won't be able to have that relationship, or I won't be able to do X, Y, and Z, and I'll be stuck here forever because, or no one would understand me, or I'll never find love, I won't be able to be invited back again because fill in the blank. So this is cognitive distortion. I'll share the link so that you can download this sheet right here so that you can start recognizing the signs. Is this something that you're doing and you want to keep a journal and record each time that you're distorting your reality to fit your perception based off of some of the things that are listed in this cheat sheet? Next on the list is to use the forgiveness process to clear the slate. One of the things that I share with my clients is the forgiveness process workbook. And I know I talk about this a lot in my types of programs and courses and webinars, but because the process of forgiveness is so liberating, freeing, and healing in the process, especially when you're dating the same person over and over again. And usually, some inner deep work, forgiveness has to be done in order for you to truly release and let go of whatever it is that you're holding on to, be it your story, your BS, your perception, or whatever it is, so that you can move forward in your life. I will also leave the link below in YouTube so that you can go ahead and order your copy of the Forgiveness Process Workbook today. Forgiveness isn't about releasing and letting go of someone that has wronged you or hurt you or done anything to you. It's about you releasing yourself from the bondage or the story or whatever it is that's holding you back from living your best life. The next step that next thing that you can do on the list is to set some clear and healthy boundaries. Now, this is a big one because what happens in dating the same person over and over and over again is usually we seem to allow this type of behavior to happen, and we allow people to come in and out of our lives, and we allow this types of behavior. We don't set up healthy boundaries for ourselves and others so that we can stop dating the same person in and over and over again. Sometimes we're letting somebody that we know is no good for us come into and out of our lives without any types of security measures whatsoever. And in this, and I'll leave a link above if you're watching this on YouTube to a video that I shared about, one of the things that why we do this and how you can stop doing that today. But it's important to set healthy boundaries, not just for yourself, but for others, because without healthy boundaries that says, this is not the way that I deserve to be treated, and I deserve to be treated this way, and this is the type of experience that I want to have, etc., fill in the blank, then you're going to just allow anybody, any person to come in and out of your life and just accept that that's just the way it is. And so this is a bonus one right here, creating a marriage contract. And I say that it's important to create a marriage contract between you and yourself, because if it is that you're seeking to get into a healthy, loving, meaningful, romantic relationship with somebody, the first person that you have to cultivate that relationship with is yourself. And so I want you to create a marriage contract, write out your vows to yourself, and then stand in front of the mirror and say those vows out loud to yourself. And before you even do this, I want you to invite some friends over if you want, or get dressed up, put on a gown, or do something really beautiful, or suit, or something nice. Put your attire on and have an actual wedding ceremony and say these vows out to yourself and create this contract where you are making an agreement with yourself to live by and abide by these types of boundaries and to love and honor and cherish yourself wholly and completely. And when you can get to a place where you're honoring the contract that you've created for yourself, then you will be ready and available to open yourself up to receive the love that others have to offer. And of course, you can always work with me as an outside observer to help you through these steps that I mentioned right here today. And I don't expect for any of you watching this video today to go out there and change your life overnight. And first of all, I don't believe that this should be another thing that you try to change. I want you to transform from the place that you've been, like how the caterpillar turns to the butterfly and can't go back. That's transformation. Don't try to change your mind. Transform your way of thinking until this becomes your way of reality. And this is a gradual process. It doesn't have to be slow. It depends on you at the rate of speed that you go. But I just want you to enjoy the journey and be a part of the process as it's happening. And my last and final thought here is, if you could change your mind, you would. And I know that it's easier said than done. So instead, change the program that's infecting your mind so that you can get rid of this virus that's causing you to date the same person over and over again and to be in this vicious DNR cycle that you've been in for some time. I thank you all so much for joining me on this webinar today. And you can, if you need to talk to me, contact me by any of the modes of contact that I've listed here. These are some other services that I offer that I talked about in the very beginning, which is coaching. I do have some group coaching coming up in the new year, which is an extremely reasonable and affordable rate, but also with great results. And I talk about the benefits of group coaching, which I'll leave a link above in the YouTube channel so that you can understand why I'm pushing that. But I also have some online dating setup and support for those of you that are ready to take the leap into online dating or dating apps. And I would help you with any of these things that I have listed here. I also offer workshops and events, so stay tuned. Sign up on my mailing list and get the latest and greatest on what's coming up in the new year. And I have online courses available on Teachable so that you are able to work through some of these programs and courses that I have on your own and at your own pace. So that's it for now. I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing my screen now, and I will open it up for discussion for those of you who are here for this webinar. But for those of you that are watching this here on YouTube, you can contact me direct by visiting findinghappily.com, and you and I can take that journey together.